Good afternoon, my most glorious babes and babes. Apologies for lack of video yesterday. Here's my explanation. I attempted to shoot this video 3 different times. I don't believe in, science from above and all that stuff, but okay, if it takes you that many times to try and do a thing and your technology keeps giving you trouble, maybe don't. Because I was getting frustrated with the tech. I don't want to get frustrated with the tech. Wow, Lily, good job. I want to get frustrated with the crap that I read in the TRC, which I know has not been implemented, and get frustrated with society. Because that is a much better use of my frustration level, I think. So, barring the interference of technology, though, I attempted to make yesterday into a research day so as not to be idle, because we don't waste time, do we? Yes, we do, but that's okay. Okay, I attempted to use yesterday as a research day to actually see how many of the calls to action have been implemented. I have found varying numbers, all of which were less than 10, okay? And I don't know which of the calls to action have been implemented and which have not. So folks, I'm serious this time. If you are in the know about this, let me know, and then I will do my video about it tomorrow. However, if I'm not told the information by someone else, I will keep looking. It's just going to be hard because I looked yesterday for quite a while. I looked today for over an hour, and I can't find consistent statistics about this. I can't find consistent information about this. I've seen everywhere between 6 and 9. But one of the things that I do believe 100% is that the symbolic ones have been held to more easily than the actual tangible change in the structure ones. So, for example, there is one about acknowledging the importance of Indigenous languages to the culture of Canada. However, that has been acknowledged, which was one of the calls to action, but no real resources have been put towards revitalization efforts, revival efforts for the languages. By the way, if I start sneezing, sorry, allergies. Yeah, that was fun. I woke up feeling kind of crappy. My ears all plugged up. That's not fun. Hang on. No, okay. It'll come or it won't, I'm not sure. But anyway, I'm going to start reading now. We have numbers 91, 2, 3, and 4. That's it. We only have 4 left to read. And then if I can get the information by tomorrow, and like I say, folks, I'm serious this time. If you're in the know, let me know. If I can get the information about which of the calls to action have been implemented by this point, by tomorrow, I will do a video on that. If I can't, not entirely sure what I'm going to do, but at least on Monday, we will start talking about the UN Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples. It's Thursday today, by the way, where I am. So, yeah, that's the thing. And I take weekends off. All right. My very long preamble is over. Let's start reading some lovely, lovely TRC. Come on. Come on. Maximize, you silly thing. Thank you, you silly thing, you beautiful thing. Oh, you're gorgeous, aren't you? Yes, you are. You are a delightful document. Anyway, number 91. We call upon the officials and host countries of international sporting events such as the Olympics, Pan Am, that's Pan American, and Commonwealth Games to ensure that Indigenous peoples' territorial protocols are respected and local Indigenous communities are engaged in all aspects of planning and participating in such events. Okay. The last time we were covering reconciliation and sports. I lied. Number 91 is still within that category. Just an FYI. I do know that, okay, the Maori, Maori, I believe, they are the indigenous people of New Zealand, right? And they have a sort of ritualistic dance that they do before sporting events called the haka. If you've never seen this done, go look it up. It is absolutely astonishing and hugely intimidating, and I love it because it's amazing. But as to my knowledge, and that's not North American, okay? That's oceanic. As to my knowledge, that is the only indigenous tradition that has ever been respected in regards to international sport. The Olympics is an example of an international sporting event. The Olympics themselves are not good for the country in which they take place. They're good for that country's finances overall, but they're not good for the area where they are held because the undesirables, i.e. homeless people, will be moved out of the area where the games are to be held for an indefinite amount of time. Theoretically until the games end, but it could be longer than that. That's not good for people, okay? There's a very big difference in my mind between the country and the people in the country. The people in the country are a real thing. The country itself is a social construct. You look on the map and you see all the lines between countries and stuff. Those don't exist. Not in real life, okay? Those are social constructs. Many of which, by the way, at least in North America, were arbitrarily drawn up in order to separate indigenous nations from one another. I've talked about this before, though. Moving on. The Pan Am, or Pan American Games, would theoretically involve Canada, America, and Mexico, okay? Because those are the three countries on mainland North America. I don't actually know that much about the Pan Ams, but, there are indigenous populations in all three of those countries, most of whom are very horrifically oppressed. And, it's really bad in Mexico, especially because, and I don't mean especially in regards to like downplaying what happened in Canada and America, but what happened with Mexico is that America kind of decided they wanted as much of Mexico's territory as they could possibly get. So they annexed quite a bit of Mexico from Mexico and then chased the Mexicans into Mexico in order to have that big old war. And you probably know what I'm talking about if you are American. As I've said before, I operate under two assumptions, which I really shouldn't. Number one, everyone on the internet is American. Number two, everyone on the internet is around my age. I really need to stop doing that. But if you're American, you've probably heard about that war, okay? But other than that, indigenous representation in sport, as I have said before, this is not my strong point, okay? But I really don't see it. I really don't. Like, I can't, off the top of my head, think of an indigenous athlete in Canada. And the whole thing about hockey being so much more popular than lacrosse, even though nominally lacrosse is our national sport, okay? That is, I think, that strikes me as a way of just throw them a bone, to shut them up. And to me, that's bad because hockey is vastly more popular up here, okay? That's like the thing to do in Canada. I am not a winter person. I never learned how to skate, much less play hockey. I might do a little bit better on lacrosse. I don't know. Who knows? I've never actually tried because we weren't taught how to do that in school. I wonder why. Oh yeah, the denial of colonial history. Right. Maximizing the document. Moving on. Okay. Under the heading of business and reconciliation. Oh mama, this is gonna be rich. Oh my god. You see what I mean by my frustration being directed at, not at the document. The document is beautiful, but at the lack of shit getting done in regards to the document. Yeah. want to get frustrated by that rather than my lack of tech savvy and my tech just crapping out on me. Anyway, number 92. We call upon the corporate sector in Canada to adopt the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples as a reconciliation framework and to apply its principles, norms, and standards to corporate policy and core operational activities involving Indigenous peoples and their lands and resources. This would include, but not be limited to, the following. 1. Commit to meaningful consultation, building respectful relationships, and obtaining the free, prior, and informed consent of Indigenous peoples before proceeding with economic development projects. That's going to need some breakdown, kids. Number 2. Ensure that Aboriginal peoples have equitable access to jobs, training, and education opportunities in the corporate sector and that Aboriginal communities gain long-term sustainable benefits from economic development projects. Again, we'll talk about that. 3. Provide education for management and staff on the history of Aboriginal peoples, including the history and legacy of residential schools, the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples, treaties and Aboriginal rights, Indigenous law, and Aboriginal Crown relations. This will require skills-based training in intercultural competency, conflict resolution, human rights, and anti-racism. Okay, there is a lot to unpack here. All right, the only one that I have honest to God's listened to in that one is number 3. And only not very much, okay? I have to give credit where it's due. At my own place of work, we actually are in the process of drawing up a policy that has to do with our relationships with our Indigenous clientele. And it's part of an overarching anti-racism policy. In our yearly training, though, we will get about an hour and a half, 2 hours of instruction on how to, work with Indigenous peoples in our business, and also a little bit about the culture that surrounds us. Here in Ontario, I am sitting on the traditional territory of the Adirondack people currently. I'm not going to tell you exactly where I am, but I mean, look at a map. If there is such a map as shows the traditional nations, I don't know whether there is. I should look into that. All right, that's really the only one that's been listened to so far in that entire number 92 that I just read, okay? The first 2, not so much, okay? We do not have equitable job access, and especially since if a lot of Indigenous people live on reserve, okay, these are not my words. My father says that they're kind of not nice places to be. He would use different language, but not nice places to be. Let me just sugarcoat it a little bit, but okay. It also said equitable access to resources. When I say not a nice place to be, I mean that these people are living on bottled water because their water is not clean enough to drink. I have seen posts after posts after posts online about this. I 1,000,000,000% agree with them, and I have this to add. Are we in the Stone Age? Are we in the Stone Age? These people are our responsibility. Government, I'm looking at you. I do not know what level of government has to do with rights to water. But I think that would probably fall under all 3. In Canada, it's federal, provincial / territorial, and municipal. But the thing is, the reserves are kind of considered nations within nation. Okay, so separate entities within Canada. So, for example, do not call them Canadian, okay? They were here first. They have their own nation names, and we chose not to honor those names in the process of assimilation and, quite frankly, annihilation. So, how do you annihilate a people? Well, you cut them off from their resources. You cut them off from the capacity to work, from their land, their culture, their mother tongues, plural. And that is exactly what has been done over the course of several centuries in Canada through multiple attempts at genocide. And it's not actually changing systemically. We've stopped sending kids to residential schools, but you don't actually see equity being, reached between Indigenous peoples and settlers. Okay, that doesn't just involve whites, but mostly whites in Canada. Okay, because I do believe whites are still in the majority in Canada, which, okay, whatever, as long as we're doing our part, which we're not, and that is what we need to do. Maximizing document. Click. Yeah. Okay. New heading. Newcomers to Canada. Okay, I was reading this yesterday. I know nothing about this. So for anyone who has any information that can help me out here. Grazie. Number 93. We call upon the federal government, in collaboration with the National Aboriginal Organizations, to revise the information kit for newcomers to Canada and its citizenship test to reflect a more inclusive history of the diverse Aboriginal peoples of Canada, including information about the treaties and the history of residential schools. All right? The reason I say I don't know anything about that is I never learned anything about that in school. My father is an American citizen. He came here when he was 5 or 6 years old. So ostensibly, he's lived as a Canadian for his entire life, but he's never actually taken the citizenship test. I don't know, therefore, what is on that test. If I did know, I would tell you, but you might know yourself, actually. You might be an immigrant living in Canada who got your citizenship. Good for you. I think it does involve, at least a baseline knowledge of either or both English and French, which are the two official languages of Canada, both of which are colonial languages. Okay? So you kind of have to sort of be able to speak one or the other or both. But why just those? Because there are, as I have said on multiple occasions, over 500 distinct Indigenous nations within Canada, okay? And they all have their own language, they all have their own cultures, they all have their own customs, so on and so forth. Speaking of, though, they also all have their own history. That's what this one's talking about. And even as a native, native as in born here, Canadian, I was never educated on the full history of colonialism for obvious reasons, because it's not that we're ashamed of it. We just don't want to talk about it because it makes us feel bad. And we don't want to feel guilty, It's not our job to feel guilty. It's our job to pretend that we're not. Yeah, that's gonna fly. Oh my god. This is what I don't like about Canada. We have this sense of, self-righteous, at least we're better than America. No, we're not. Okay, we might have gotten the idea for the residential schools from America, but we went whole hog into that. And we haven't really done anything about it, especially considering the recent crisis, possibly still ongoing crisis, I don't actually know, of finding all those bodies around the different residential schools that have been searched so far. like the death count was in the 7,000s the last time I checked. A little bit higher than they had originally told us it was, which was somewhere in, it was either the 1,000s or the 4,000s. Either way, that was a lie. Don't let your government lie to you, okay? This is why I kind of advocate anarchy, but not in the violent way. I kind of want to talk about that in a later video, actually, but no one has to adhere to my political views. No one has to adhere to my religious views, which is why I hardly ever talk about either of those on a personal level when it comes to these videos, except to say that, yes, I am an anarchist. No, I am not a Christian. So on and so forth. But I have a very strict, do not try to convert the other guy policy when it comes to both of those things. Even though what I'm doing right now might look like proselytizing to a certain extent, I'm not trying to proselytize. I'm trying to get the truth out there. This is the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. Thanks for noticing. Maximizing document. All right. Folks, we've gotten there. We're there. It's number 94, the last one in the TRC. We're there. Okay, and it's a short one. We call upon the Government of Canada to replace the oath of citizenship with the following. FYI, I don't know the oath of citizenship. I've never had to take it. We have, I think it's called inborn citizenship. Like, if you are born here, you're automatically a citizen. Okay, let me read that again. Sorry. Number 94. We call upon the Government of Canada to replace the oath of citizenship with the following. I swear or affirm that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, Queen of Canada, her heirs and successors, and that I will faithfully observe the laws of Canada, including treaties with Indigenous peoples, and fulfill my duties as a Canadian citizen. Okay, this, I imagine, has not been enacted, but this is a really, really big freaking deal, okay? Nominally, because Canada is a constitutional monarchy, this might be difficult for Americans to grasp, okay? We are what's called a constitutional monarchy. Because we are part of the British Commonwealth, okay? We were once a colony of England, or of Britain, okay? England is the country, Britain is the empire. Don't say English when you mean British, don't say British when you mean English, okay? But we are a constitutional monarchy, which means that nominally our head of state is England's reigning monarch. In this case, it is Queen Elizabeth II. She's getting pretty old, okay? And I've had discussions with my mom about this. Either she will step down or she will actually die in office, so to speak. It's not an office, it's a throne, but here's the thing. Her son Charles might actually end up abdicating because he's getting up there too. I think he's in his 70s. So his son William, so Prince William, he would then take on the role of monarch. So this would change to, I swear allegiance to His Majesty King William the whatever his number would be. I don't know how many Williams there have been, that kind of thing. But the fact that they add in the idea of loyalty to treaty rights is immensely important because it recognizes not only the existence of Indigenous peoples within this country, and there are a lot of them, but it also recognizes their right to sovereignty and their right to have their treaties upheld, okay? Treaties do not change. From the time in which they were written to right now, treaties do not change. What I would actually like to do is to do some research on the treaties that are applicable to the region in which I live. If I can tell you about them without giving away where I live, that would be an interesting project, I think. But Yeah, the oath of citizenship, I imagine right now, involves the first 3/4 of that, so allegiance to Queen Elizabeth. By the way, if I were forced to take this oath, I would just be kind of going, nod, wink, smile, right? Because I don't like rulers. The reason, by the way, why I say she is our nominal ruler, she doesn't really have any power, okay? Nominally, again, she's the head of our government, but Trudeau, Justin Trudeau, current Prime Minister of Canada, he's the guy with all the cards, okay? He's the one who makes the decisions. He has to run them by the Governor General, who is the representative of the English or British Crown in Canada, and again, nominally, the highest office in Canada proper, like within our landmass. But Trudeau basically, he's the one with the real power. He's like the face on the poster kind of thing. But basically, the whole idea behind acknowledging treaty rights, that would be a step in the right direction, and I can honest to God swear to you, this one has not been done. Because, as I was saying before, the information that I have found thus far about the calls to action that have actually been done, it's pretty much just been the symbolic ones. Like, we acknowledge that Indigenous cultures are important, full stop, right? But it's like, okay, but what do you actually do? What do you actually do? That's the important part. For the time being, I feel that the most I can do is to get this content out there and to make people aware. Because knowledge is power, people! And power belongs to the people. Yeah. We would like to think so. If you can hear the lawnmower, it's annoying me too. I'm sorry. So, ending on a high note, it would be lovely, 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 lovely if some of the initiatives that have been put out in order to make the TRC actually happen, if they were to actually be adhered to and the government could stop being all talk, no action, looking at you, Trudeau, that would be lovely. And they're not going to do that because they're the government. So, what do we do about it? I want to end this on as inspirational a note as I can. You, if you're a Canadian citizen, have elected your government, okay? And of voting age, okay? You have elected your government. They're functionally useless. So, remember, you're the one who put them there. You're the one with the actual power. You can just as easily use that constitutional right to actually do something, which is what I'm trying to do. I get a heavy sense of imposter syndrome like 50% of the time. The other 50% of the time, I'm wrapped up in this stuff going, why did I not know this? Or this is amazing, or this is infuriating. That's the kind of document this is, and I love it. You know, it's the richness of this thing, it's the wholeness of this thing that I love this. And it's infuriating, it's inspiring, it's intellectualizing. I don't know if that's a word, but what I mean is it's making me smarter. And we love that. We love that for us. I'm speaking for, my collective, if I have a collective. If I don't, that's fine. I can usually rely on a few views on these videos, which is nice. But basically, what I have as a final jumping off point, but jumping off point, not stopping point for this. You have more power than you have been trained to believe you have. Use it, please. That's what I'm trying to do, and if I can stave off the imposter syndrome, that is what I'm going to continue to do. Use your power, okay? You don't have to have a parliamentary office in order to have power. That is the true factual reality of reality, that human beings are the ones who have the power to change the world, to change history, to change lives. Think of all the famous names, and you think of all of them individually, but all of these people had people behind them too. So this is basically, this is my fight song. I hate that song. But yeah, that's what I have to say about that. And hopefully you have enjoyed this series, and hopefully, I will get enough information by tomorrow to tell you which of the calls to action in the TRC have actually been done or are in the process of getting done. It's not that many. And this is where I say this is the reason why we need to take back our power, because if we can use it, we can do this. All right? I mean, do the TRC, not make a video. All right. So, that is all for today. Hopefully I'll see you tomorrow. If I don't, I take weekends off, so I'll be back on Monday to talk about the UN Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples. I love it. It's pretty, and I need to reread it again because it's so pretty. But yeah, I will be back hopefully tomorrow, as I say, but if not, Monday, to talk to you about the UNDRIP, as I'm calling it because I am a jackass. All right, have a lovely afternoon, and I'll see you later. Bye! Mwah!